I'm joined today by Talon Resources CEO Alex King. Thanks for joining me, Alex.
Not at all. Thanks for having me.
So, Alex, news out last week from your Phase 1 exploration programme confirming high-grade gold across multiple targets. Before we discuss these, given you've only just recently listed, could you give listeners a brief overview of Talon Resources, please, and the Eagle Lake Gold Project?
Sure, absolutely. So Talon Resources, we undertook a reverse into a main market shell called Medcore Investments, readmitted into AIM kind of in the last week in June. We're a new gold exploration platform to offer exposure to that early stage gold exploration into London. We felt that there was a kind of a real lack of opportunity in that space for high quality kind of early stage gold assets. Clearly, gold's a kind of a very exciting theme generally, and we feel like we're filling a really exciting space. So we came to market with our flagship project, which is called Eagle Lake, that we'll clearly come to. But we are a platform for early exploration. We do have appetite, and in surely in capital efficient ways, we'll be looking to build out a portfolio of these projects to offer into London.
Okay, great. So you must be pleased with these initial channel sampling results that you got. I think up to 33 grams a tonne, I believe, from your best grab sample. Are these results what you were hoping for at this early stage?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there is an element of some of these channels were confirmatory of the historic database. We came at Eagle Lake with a pretty robust data set. The nice thing about operating in Ontario, this is up in northwestern Ontario, is that all your exploration data is publicly registered, so you can go and find that, access that. Obviously your 43101s follow on from that as well. So we had pretty good indications that there was high-grade gold at surface. And as I say, there's an element of the channel sampling that was just to go and confirm that the widths and the grades were in the quantum they were expecting, and delighted that we're able to confirm that. But equally, we're moving very rapidly towards a drill program later on this year. We really wanted to use those channel samples as well to really help hone in on what targets we were going to be sticking the drill bit into. So not just the grades, but the structural interpretation, the geological mapping, all of the precursors to a drill program, because we really want to get the maximum bang for our buck out of this drilling. So we have to really understand what it is that we're targeting.
Well, I think you actually answered my next question there, which is what in terms of channel sampling, why don't you just go straight into a drill program? But it sounds from what you're saying is that it gives you a sort of a clearer picture of where you might want to stick the drill bit.
It does, and it's obviously there's two elements to it. Firstly, is the geological understanding, as we've said. They're all the fluids that carry the gold will be hosted within structures that will dip and they will plunge, and so we really need to understand. We can see it at surface. Where's that going to be 100 meters down? So that's part of the thinking for the channel sampling. But equally, this is a public company that needs news flow, and waiting for a drill program and etc. We needed to get out of the gates running and demonstrate that we were going to follow through exactly with what we said we were going to do. So practicing what we preach, I guess.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, obviously investors like news flow. Okay, well, in terms of the targeting itself, then I think you're taking quite an innovative approach here, because you've got a partnership, I think, with Minimal's machine learning AI platform.
That's right.
And it's not. I've interviewed a number of gold companies, and we've never really ever touched on this before. So, is this a growing trend for gold exploration now, or is it generally, or is it something unique to Talon?
No, I think it's a growing trend in every sector, isn't it? If we're honest. Specifically for mineral exploration, I mean, it is an industry that has lagged behind. It is famously analog, for all the right reasons. We like certificates and hard assets, core, etc. And machine learning has taken a while to really get into that space, but it does have its application, absolutely. And I think for us, as I've said, Ontario is an area where there's a huge amount of publicly available data that a machine learning platform can process lightning fast. I've operated in the southwest of the UK where it can take months and years to build a database from historic archives, and it's man hours. But machine learning can just take that completely away from you. So there's lots of elements as to why machine learning really has its application. But it's a tool that we have agreed an exclusive deal for the sub-province of Ontario that our Eagle Lake project sits in. So we're
Okay.
really looking to partner with, rather than just use their services, we're partnering with them to use that AI to really help us hone down on what targets there are elsewhere in that superior province that we'd be well served to go and stake some claims and undertake another field program.
You mentioned there the exclusivity. What is exclusive about it then? Is it the fact that you're using some technology that others can't use, and you're hoping to benefit from that, or explore better than they are? What's the exclusivity relate to?
Well, so the exclusivity relates to the Wabigoon sub-province, which is this
Right.
greenstone belt that kind of is this. It's a real hotbed of exploration activity in northwestern Ontario.
Mm.
It was previously largely overlooked, but there are some pretty monstrous kind of historical assets there. And actually, within the same sub-province, Next Gold Mining have got their Goliath complex, which is
Yeah.
in kind of pre-production, 2.9 million ounces. So it's clearly a very, very fertile region. And the partnership that we've got with minimal kind of it allows us exclusive use of their technology in that sub province,
Right.
which is a really exciting kind of emerging gold producing region of Canada.
So it's
But it
a leading edge exploration, basically. Is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. But it's reciprocal. It's
Yeah.
it's an early stage offer that Minimal have. So we'll be feeding the hard asset results that
Mm.
we get out of the ground into the platform, helping refine the model. So it's mutually beneficial
Right.
for two early stage companies. And it's not the only tool in the shed. It's difficult to justify mobilizing a drill rig simply because a machine learning platform says so.
Yeah. Yeah.
But refining those targets and using the tried and tested the geological data you get out of the field
Yeah.
and running that through the machine learning and kind of looking to ground truth, I guess.
Yeah.
Because you know full well that as soon as we generate a target, stick a drill hole through it, and it confirms that we have hit some mineralization, that becomes a very, very exciting opportunity
Yeah.
indeed.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah. Okay. Well, in terms of those drill targets, then, what's your sort of strategy? Are you going to be focusing on obviously the outputs of the machine learning and your geological analysis, or whatever? Are you going to be focusing on higher grade gold targets initially, or targets that are perhaps larger but lower grade, or perhaps both for optionality?
It's an interesting question, isn't it? Because the high grades are fantastic, and
Mm.
they're the thing that gets the market sitting up and saying, "Wow, bonanza grades." But I mean, when it actually comes
Mm.
downstream to the resource modeling, etc., those kind of outlying very high grades can be a real headache. And it sounds counterintuitive, but actually,
Yeah.
a kind of consistent grade over coherent widths that ties into something with much more significant kind of tonnage potential, that's ultimately more valuable than
Mm.
some very sporadic, very nuggety high grade material. And
Yeah.
what's quite nice is that the channel sampling that we've done, and certainly the historical database, shows that actually there are some pretty significant widths with actually some very decent grades there as well. So
Mm.
the high grades are there and they're fantastic to have. But for me, I'm focusing on having that tonnage potential at a good head grade.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate aim. In terms of what we're targeting, at the moment, we're obviously limited to where there's outcrop and where there's been channel sampling and some of the kind of sporadic 1950s to 1980s drilling. What we really want to be doing is tying that up at depth into a coherent exploration target. That's the main
Mm.
thing. So clearly we'll be using the guide of the surface sampling to help narrow down where we're going to collar those holes. But
Yeah.
really, it's about building that picture in 3 dimensions between the various prospects that we've got.
Yeah.
But in terms of strategy, we've got about 7 kilometers of strike in these claims. It's a big property, and we've got gold hits pretty much at either end. 7 kilometers apart. But
Right.
the greatest density of our existing data is down in that southwestern kilometre or so of strike. So really, it's focusing on that area where we've already got the best data, tying that hopefully into something coherent of that kind of scale, and then we've got plenty of potential expansion from that. But a kilometre of strike at good grade and good width, that's a decent target that we'd be very, very well positioned if we were able to tie that together.
Yeah. No. Fantastic. Okay. So moving on to the maiden drill program itself, then. When are you hoping to start this? What's the scope of the program? When could results start feeding through? And what does upcoming news flow look like? That's probably about 4 questions in one.
Goodness me, and a whole load of loaded questions as well. So, I mean,
Yeah.
we're working with the drill contractor now. Clearly, what we wanted to do is to drill the first 1,000 meters of our 2,000 meter program off the back of the channel samples. And then what we want to do is drill the second 1,000 meters off the back of the first 1,000 meters, rather than trying to to design a whole program off the back of some surface sampling.
Yeah.
Because we really want to make sure that we, as I say, we're getting as much bang for our buck out of this drilling. And it's far too easy just to go in and pinprick a deposit with holes and just hope that you hit something. And again, the machine learning is hopefully going to help us refine those targets as the integrity of the data starts to really build up as well. In terms of timings, we're aiming for Q4. We're working with the drill contractor to see whether we can get that brought forward a little bit. We've obviously, we're engaged very closely with our First Nations partners there. They have some sensitive periods in terms of hunting seasons, and that we'll be cognizant of, and making sure that we're being sensitive to their preferences. But we're hitting the ground running. We've got the initial sampling done. We're keen to get that drill bit turning as soon as humanly possible. So watch this space. News flow, I'm sure, will be in short order.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, well, look, a great start to the exploration program with some highly encouraging results. We'll look forward to chatting to you again as the program progresses.
Thanks for having me. I look forward to it.